The Boston Celtics find themselves in an unusual position this offseason. After acquiring Anfernee Simons in a deal that moved Jrue Holiday, the franchise now appears to be evaluating whether the 26-year-old guard fits into their long-term structure or if his value on the trade market could bring back an even more impactful return. What makes this development particularly significant is the type of teams reported to have interest in him. According to Sam Amico of Hoops Wire, 3 franchises have already been linked to Simons. The Philadelphia 76ers, who are actively searching for more offensive creation alongside Joel Embiid, the Denver Nuggets, a team that just lifted a championship and is looking to maintain depth around Nikola Jokic, and Milwaukee Bucks, Boston's direct rival in the Eastern Conference. Each of these teams represents a different type of challenge for Boston. The Philadelphia angle is interesting because their roster has been in constant transition since the departure of James Harden. Simons could provide them with reliable perimeter scoring and an additional ball handler, something that has often left them exposed in playoff situations. Denver's interest suggests that the defending champions are not satisfied standing still and see Simons as a guard capable of easing the offensive load when Jamal Murray is off the floor. But the Milwaukee connection is the one that raises the most questions. The idea of pairing Simons with Giannis Antetokounmpo would potentially strengthen a rival that the Celtics have met repeatedly in decisive postseason battles. Simons' contract, valued at $100 million, is another element that shapes the conversation. It is a manageable number for a guard who averaged nearly 20 points per game last season and maintained over 36% from three-point range. At the same time, it is a commitment that forces Boston to consider whether he is the right complementary piece alongside Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, or if his salary could be redistributed into multiple assets that better fit the roster construction. Brad Stevens has been deliberate in his approach since transitioning from the sidelines to the front office. His track record shows an ability to identify both short-term needs and long-term advantages. In this case, any decision regarding Simons will carry implications not just for this season, but for several years ahead. Trading with Philadelphia or Denver would not be without risk, but the potential downside of strengthening Milwaukee is far greater. Rivalries in the NBA are not only cultural but strategic, and history shows that Boston has often been careful not to provide direct assistance to its main competitors in the East. From a purely basketball perspective, Simons brings value through his scoring versatility, ball handling, and ability to create in isolation. Yet, Boston may be weighing whether those strengths overlap too heavily with what they already possess. The Celtics could seek a player with a different skill set, perhaps more defensive versatility, or size in the backcourt, depending on how they forecast the challenges of the postseason. The timing of these discussions is also important. With training camp approaching, clarity on roster direction becomes crucial. Teams like Milwaukee and Philadelphia may intensify their pursuit in the coming weeks, especially if they sense Boston is willing to listen. Denver, already well-positioned as a contender, can afford to be patient but remains a threat in any trade scenario given their championship window. Ultimately, the Simons situation illustrates the balance between immediate competitiveness and sustainable roster management. The Celtics have an asset that multiple contenders want, and that places them in a position of leverage. Whether they choose to hold that leverage or convert it into additional resources will define much of the narrative entering the 2025 season. What remains certain is that Boston controls the pace of this story. The interest is real, the stakes are high, and any decision will reverberate across the conference. For the Celtics, the choice is not only about Simons himself, but about how each possible move reshapes the team's path toward another title run. When the Boston Celtics step onto the hardwood for the 2025 to 2026 NBA season, fans are not just witnessing the beginning of another campaign, they are staring at one of the most unpredictable chapters in the team's recent history. For the first time in years, the Celtics do not enter the season with a clear and untouchable rotation. Instead, they are armed with uncertainty, hidden potential, and the type of roster puzzle that can either collapse under pressure or ignite something few around the league are prepared for. What could this starting lineup look like, and why does this version of the Celtics carry a dangerous amount of intrigue? Jayson Tatum's injury, a ruptured Achilles, left a void larger than any single player should be able to fill, yet it created an opening for transformation. Jaylen Brown, who once shared the spotlight, is now placed directly under it, facing a challenge that feels both daunting and golden. This is not about replacing Tatum, it is about discovering how far Brown can stretch the limits of his own game when everything funnels through him. He already has a Finals MVP in his resume from 2024, and he's only 28, smack in the middle of his athletic prime. Now the question is whether he can become not just the best player on the floor, but the leader who defines how Boston survives and evolves in a season where every possession feels heavier than usual. Derrick White enters with a different kind of responsibility. He shattered the Celtics' single-season three-point record, but those numbers tell only half the story. White is no longer a secondary weapon. He is the connector, the silent orchestrator who can transform an offense by making others comfortable. There is real speculation that if he opens the year strong, he could be in the all-star conversation. His presence gives Boston a baseline of intelligence and poise, and that steadiness could be exactly what keeps this team from unraveling when adversity strikes. The real plot twist comes with the guards. The acquisition of Anfernee Simons is a move that has fueled endless trade chatter, mostly because of his expiring $27.7 million contract. On paper, it looks like a temporary partnership, yet the Celtics front office understands something deeper. Simons is not just an asset, he is a weapon capable of bending defenses in ways Boston has lacked. His pairing with Pritchard is unconventional, two smaller guards overlapping in skill, yet the NBA has repeatedly shown that awkward fits can sometimes reveal unexpected chemistry. If these two click, they can bring a level of shooting and scoring versatility that opponents will struggle to contain. The forward rotation is where curiosity takes over. Sam Hauser is the obvious candidate to absorb a starting role because of his shooting gravity, but beyond him lies a forest of uncertainty and raw potential. Baylor Scheierman arrives with a unique skill set that blends shooting with playmaking. Jordan Walsh still carries the energy and defensive upside that can swing games, and Josh Minott brings athleticism waiting for a stage. Then there is Hugo Gonzalez, the 19-year-old first-round pick, whose growth will not be rushed, but whose talent whispers of a future star. One or more of these names will not just earn minutes, they could seize the opportunity to redefine the Celtics' identity while Tatum recovers. The frontcourt might look thinner without Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, and Luke Kornet, yet the Celtics are not walking into this season defenseless. Neemias Queta has shown glimpses of dominance when given Real playing time, and his combination of size and mobility is rare. Chris Boucher adds length and experience, Luka Garza brings toughness and scoring touch, and Xavier Tillman remains the wild card. If Tillman returns to the level he showed during the finals run, Boston could suddenly have a defensive anchor that nobody outside the locker room is predicting. The projected starting five today could read as Pritchard, Derrick White, Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, and Neemias Queta, but the truth is that this lineup is a moving target. Over the course of 82 games, injuries, breakout performances, and front office decisions will shuffle the pieces repeatedly. The Celtics are not presenting a finished product on opening night. They are unveiling an evolving experiment that could shock the league. So the real question for fans is not who will start in October, but who. The latest snub involving Derrick White is not just puzzling, it is one of those decisions that make you wonder how narratives in the NBA are truly built. A player who has been a defensive anchor for the Boston Celtics, who has reshaped the idea of what a guard can do on both the perimeter and near the rim, was once again left out of a ranking that was supposed to celebrate the best defenders in the league. The most shocking part is not even the omission itself, but the lack of explanation. On the Game Theory podcast, Sam Vecenie openly admitted that he left White out, but could not even give a reason. It was as if one of the most consistent defensive forces in recent years simply vanished when it was time to put names on paper. This leaves a bigger question. How does someone who has ranked among the league leaders in blocks for a guard, who has neutralized all-star level scorers across different positions, and who has allowed Boston to constantly adapt its defensive schemes, not even get a mention in the final cut? The answer might not lie in his performance, but in something far more subtle. NBA recognition has never been just about numbers. It has been about storylines, visibility, and the ability to perform in front of the brightest lights. And here is where Derrick White becomes one of the most fascinating cases in the league today. Standing at 6 feet and 5 inches, White has built a reputation that defies convention. Guards his size are expected to stay in front of quick ball handlers, to contest shots, and to navigate through endless screens. White does all of that at an elite level, but he also does something that disrupts the very fabric of NBA defense. He blocks shots at the rim with the timing and precision of a big man, but with the mobility to chase shooters across the arc. This duality has given Boston a tactical advantage that few teams can replicate. It is not just about the numbers, it is about the fact that Boston can use him in ways that stretch far beyond his position. Yet when lists are made, perception often overtakes impact. Walker Kessler at number 25 represents the old bias toward size. A 7-footer patrolling the rim will always seem like a safer choice, even if his efficiency numbers have started to decline. Andrew Nembhard making the cut at number 24 shows how much playoff moments shape memory. He had the spotlight against stars like Jalen Brunson and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that burned into the minds of analysts. Isaiah Hartenstein and Chris Dunn got rewarded for specific roles that were amplified in the postseason. White, on the other hand, played his usual brand of intelligent and suffocating defense, but Boston's early exit took away the national stage he needed. The irony here is that White's defense has never been situational. He has been consistent for 3 straight years, playing through regular season grinds and postseason challenges with the same energy and precision. His ability to adjust to different matchups is not an occasional highlight, it is his entire identity as a player. And that is exactly why this omission is so intriguing. What does it really take for a guard like White to be recognized? Is it just about highlight blocks and visible matchups on prime television, or is there something deeper that the league still struggles to reward? Fans might see this as another slight, but hidden inside it is a reason for hope. White has never needed validation to change the outcome of games. He does not require awards or rankings to influence the direction of a season. And as the Boston Celtics prepare for what could be one of the most challenging campaigns in their recent history, the very fact that White continues to be overlooked might end up being one of their greatest advantages. Opponents who underestimate him will learn the hard way what it means to face a guard who can block shots like a center, chase shooters like a specialist, and anchor defensive schemes like a veteran leader. The snub is real, but it might just fuel what comes next. Recognition often comes late in the NBA, but when it arrives, it rewrites narratives. The league may not have given Derrick White his place among the top 25 defenders today, but every possession he plays makes it harder to ignore. And the question that lingers is not whether he belongs on such a list, but how long the league can keep pretending he does not.